G'day, my name's Eamon, and today we're really excited to announce our PF120 high bandwidth NDI box camera. Here it is. Here at Bird Dog, we've already delivered to the world the most complete range of high bandwidth NDI PDC cameras, and today we're really proud to expand that lineup into the box camera category with our PF120. Shipping now, the PF120 delivers resolutions up to 1080p 60 and is perfect for live streaming, educational facilities, medical applications, boardrooms, live sports productions, live events, and just so much more. At the heart of the PF120 is a Sony Exmor R sensor, which is teamed up with Bird Dog's custom NDI silicon implementation, which gives unmatched picture quality. There is a full color matrix available with an incredible 64 positions of red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, and yellow for both hue and saturation controls. And yes, Toby, there's also Kelvin control in there too. All of these amazing color tools found in the PF120 can be controlled by our free Cam Control software. This is a software that enables you to access all of the features of the camera remotely, and you can control all of the color tools and color match cameras literally in seconds. Okay, so now let's take a look at the hardware. In the PF120 we have a super high quality 20 times zoom lens. We've incorporated a 49mm thread on the front, so you can use your favourite filters including UVs, polarizers, NDs, and much more. There is also a large tally light on the front that just works when connected to any NDI production system. Moving around to the back of the PF120, we have a high bandwidth NDI connection which is delivered over an RJ45. This can also be used for powering the camera via PoE+. There is a HDMI which works at the same time as high bandwidth NDI, and there's also a USB UVC connector, so you can use the PF120 with your favourite video conferencing application. We also have a secondary connector over RJ45 for RS232 control. We have 3.5mm audio inputs and outputs, and a locking power supply connector. The PF120 ships with a global power supply. On the bottom of the PF120 are standard tripod mounts including a 1/4 inch 20 and a 3/8 inch thread for maximum mounting flexibility. There's also an anti-rotation pinhole as well. PF120 is shipping globally through our network of resellers, and for more information on this amazing little camera, just head on over to Bird Dog's website.
Well, it is that time again, everybody. Hope you are doing well. My name is Bird Dog John, and I am back in action.
In those scenarios, it's good to neuralize the cameras. You guys know that best.
Very straightforward. Plug it in, go to the web UI, link the source, walk away. You know, like super simple. I keep looking over at the chat, and I keep seeing you are full of it. Tasty, spicy meat snacks. Covered in flavor. I mean, you can't go wrong. So what's going on? We've got a handful of folks here in the chat, and I really appreciate that. What's up, mate? Hey, Warren, how are you? Appreciate it. Hey, Robbie, how's it going, man? You're just talking about you. What's going on, Tom? Ahoy. How is it going? What's going on, GoWeb? Good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out with us again today. Appreciate that. Feel like I'm in this video more than anyone but John. It's true, NetApp. You are, I'm going to cut this up and put this in the next intro. What is going on, everybody? It is time again for at least an hour of Bird Dog Live, and this is really strange because this is all looping through my ears because I'm trying to log into Twitch. Hang on one second, folks. I'm still sorting things out here. I've had a pretty busy morning and some stuff that I've needed to do here very at the last second. So, okay, there. Now I can mute the audio. Boom. Done. And in particular, I wanted to, how do I do this here? I guess I need to go to my channel. Love it when people spam you right as the show's starting. That's always fun. Hopefully you're doing well. Hey, thanks for stopping by today and hanging out with us. There's a whole bunch of you that are in on the show, and so I'm going to get to you in just a second. As soon as I figure out how to get rid of this dude. There we go. And see you later. All right, so that guy's gone. And all right, now I'm back. That only took like an extra 10 minutes, which is why we had an extra long video this morning before we got started, because I needed a few extra minutes to sort things out. Namaste from India. What's going on, GoWeb? How are you, man? Good to see you again. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate that. As always, you are becoming a regular. Happy Republic Day. Oh, now I gotta find out what that's all about. So India Republic Day is January 26th, 2023. Happy India Republic Day. The 74th Republic Day celebrations have already begun. And so happy Republic Day to those of you tuning in from India. My special shout out to my friend GoWeb as you celebrate today. Jeremy, what's happening? Happy Thursday. I would agree with that. That reminds me, I need to have a chat with you about some Resi stuff. So you and I should connect a little later on about Resi, because I'm assuming you're still over there. And yeah, I'd like to chat with you a little bit more. Alex says hi. Hey, what's going on, Alex? Ooh, cool camera in your picture. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Oh, Randy sent me an email at the help desk. And so him and I are going to become buddies. Also, he's my Canadian brother, so he's over in Winnipeg. How's it going? I am originally from Toronto. I don't know if I've mentioned that to you specifically. So Canadian by birth, Canadian by citizenship, and just I'm a wayfaring stranger here in this foreign land. Hi from Spain. What's going on? I'm not even going to attempt that username, but hey, how's it going? Hopefully you're doing well. Bird Dog John, you rock. Oh, wow. What did I do to deserve that sort of accolade? Thank you so much. The gain is maybe a little bit low today. Well, that's strange because I haven't changed it, and I'm watching it. Yeah, you know what? You're right. It might be a little low. Let's bump that a bit and see what happens, if that's any better. Now my audio meter is telling me it's a little too high. So let me know what's how that sounds. If better, maybe I need to move this microphone closer. Maybe that would help. Maybe if I had proper mic technique and covered most of my face with this beautiful EVRE20 broadcast microphone. If you've been here before, you know how much I love this microphone. It is good stuff. I'm slacking on my mod duties now, Balu. You're not slacking. If anything, you're going above and beyond the next door over there. Yeah, thanks for what you're doing today. I know you're under time crunch too. So Jeremy says, yeah, okay, cool. So we definitely need a chat and maybe Jeremy, it just means I need to have you on the show and you can showcase Resi. Because Resi is one of those products that a lot of churches are using, and we should totally. It's not a competition with Bird Dog in any way. We capture the thing that's happening live on stage, and Resi helps publish it to the world. So maybe you and I should get on a schedule, and we should have a full on chat. Lewis, okay, I appreciate that. Thanks for clearing that up. Sorry that I wouldn't attempt your username. I do appreciate you. Letting me know. Hey, good morning from New Hampshire. Oh, that's cool. How's it going? I don't know of many. Maybe I should start keeping track. Does anybody know of a service out there where people who jump on my show could check in, and then it would generate like a map or something of where everybody's coming in from? I would love to know. So, hey, from New Hampshire, that's really cool. Thanks for. Be great to see where the audience is hanging out and who's all from where. So that'd be really cool. And hey, from the UK, hey, Gary. Hopefully you're doing well. Thank you for jumping on. I really appreciate that. Good times. Good times to have you on there. Oh, hey. Hey, from Berlin. What's going on? I'm going to say some sort of word in German and then stream. So, hey, what's going on, Berlin? Thanks for joining us today. I do appreciate that. Wow, we got quite the group. This is quite the group of folks from different places around the world, and I love that about hanging out with you guys, is that Bird Dog guys are all over the place, and you hang out with us every week. So cool stuff. Hopefully things are going well. Hey, can you tell us about your setup, your computer, and your network? Yes, absolutely. So let's go through that. So the computer that I'm using is just a gaming NUC computer. It is one that actually they don't make anymore, but it's an i7. It has, I think, well, I don't need to think. Quote of the day. I don't really need to think, do I? Let me give you the actual stats that are on this machine. So it is an i7. It's a 8705G CPU. It's a 3.10 gigahertz processor. It's got 32 gigs, which I'm glad I looked this up because I was going to say 16. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. It is running Windows 10 still, by the way, because it's not that I don't want to upgrade to Windows 11. I just really haven't gotten around to it, and I'm not 100% sure that vMix plays perfectly nice with Windows 11 yet. Maybe it does. Maybe I missed that announcement. You know who I should ask is the Mr. Tom Sinclair. He would know. He'd probably tell me there's no issues. So it's been long enough, right, that they probably sorted that out. Anyways, so then I am running a copy of vMix. This is the vMix Pro version that I'm using. And full disclosure, this was given to us by vMix as a test unit. So I'm using this on a twice a week which I found it is bi-weekly, that term. So bi-weekly means every other week, and it also means twice a week. Like, thanks, English language. So I'm using this, I'm just going to say twice a week, Tuesday, Thursdays from 11 to 12 at least, right here on birddogjohn.tv. So vMix is running that. I'm running 4 cameras and a screen capture. And then I've delayed the audio about 200 milliseconds to compensate for the audio capture for my RE20 that is being used. And I'm outputting then vMix NDI. I've got 2 NDI outputs. The first one is a multi-view that is going to a BirdDog Play, which is sitting in front of me, and that's showing me then the vMix output for multi-view, so I can see all my camera angles and everything that I want to do. That I want to do there. And then I have another NDI output that's going over to a secondary computer, which you can actually see in this shot. There's a Mac Mini that's running on this screen, and I am running StreamYard on that. I have a subscription to StreamYard, and so that is coming in. NDI webcam is converting that then over to a USB source, and then the NDI audio and the NDI video from that source is then being piped up to StreamYard, and that computer is doing the transfer up to the cloud. Now, this has evolved over time in terms of threshold and usage and blah, 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 blah. And I have found that running them on separate machines is just a little safer and a little more consistent. The internet connection is rock solid to the Mac, and that's just a gigabit port on there. But it basically has it's receiving, the NDI source, converting it over, sending it to StreamYard, and then transmitting that out to the net. So that's that. The camera that you're looking at right now is a P200, and that is probably 7 feet from me. So it's sitting on a ledge about 7 feet away from me, which is also sitting on my secondary monitor is over there. So when I switch over and do screen share stuff, and I want to show you this shot. Whoops, not that one. I want to show you this shot. There's a big giant TV that's sitting up there that I use as my secondary monitor. This is what I use to share, screenshot stuff. And then, so the 200 is sitting next to that screen, which is right above my Confidence monitor. And then I've got a PF120, which is right here next to me. So this shot is a PF120. And that is literally like I could touch the lens if I just leaned over a little bit. So that's not too far. That's my third shot. And then, of course, my P240 is now up in the crow's nest, and that one sits further up there behind a light. So there is a general fill light that's over there. That's a big softbox. And right off to the side of that is the P240, and that is currently running in full bandwidth mode. And so that's another shot. And if you notice, the coloration is a little bit more they're not balanced correctly. So between these two shots, you notice the blue wall is a little bit different shade of blue, but that doesn't bother me too much. But those are the 3 shots that I'm using here on the show. The P200 being the primary. And then that all runs in a playlist, so I don't have to auto switch. Oh, and then I have a P100 above me, right? So if I'm talking about snacks on stream, which I regularly do, and we will be talking more today on that, I have a picture-in-picture, and then I have my coffee in the shot appropriately. And then today we have 6 tea cakes, actually 4, but there's 2 out there for others to try. I have no idea what I'm getting into here. This is brought to you by my friend Balu, who's currently out in the shop working on some pretty serious stuff. But he has brought us some Tunnocks milk chocolates tea cakes. They are allegedly, they say tea cakes, but then they say biscuits. So this is probably one of those UK inventions that they can't decide are they biscuits or cakes. And I'm happy to take your suggestions on what those actually qualify as before we go down that road, which will be around 11:30, so another 15 minutes, and we will partake in tea cakes. And you'll get my, I've never had them before, you'll get my unfiltered response as to what these are like. And there's a couple out there in the shop that I think the guys are also going to participate with. Maybe they're having them right now, who knows. Okay, so that is generally the camera setup, the computer setup. The lighting stuff, I have a hair light that is just a standard LED barn door hair light that sits up and over my shoulder. That separates me a little bit from the background, not a whole lot when I'm wearing all black, and I normally do, because that's what the bird dog garb is. But then I have a brand new Falcon Eyes, which is the smallest version that they have. I think it's like $100 or $150. And that has been great for my primary light that's here on this camera. So I love it. It works really well, and it plugs in more direct to my system. So with lighting, I used to have all these soft boxes around here, and that's what I was primarily using, and then one of them went south, and so it started malfunctioning, so I replaced it with this Falcon as I used that opportunity to buy a better light. And that all plugs in. All of my LEDs, all of my lights, basically with the exception of that one and this one, all plug in to a power bar strip that I have here on the desk that's mounted on the desk, and it's a single button. So when I flip that on, all the lights come on, and I only have to turn on the hair light and that fill light. That doesn't really do a whole lot, because this green LED light that's here on the table, which is right here, you can see that, and then I have a blue light down there, and I have a blue light up there. They're all plugged into that same strip, so when I flip that switch, everything comes on pretty much, and I always forget to turn that hair light on, but that's besides the point. So that's the lighting situation. And then, of course, the audio, which is in a production like this, is king. And so, which reminds me, I'm going to jump over to my YouTube page and just make sure that things are going as I expect them to. Yep. Weird. Yep. Okay, so audio is all right. You're right. It does seem a little quiet, doesn't it? Let's see if that might be because I've turned the volume down on the computer. Yep, definitely. Whoa, there I am. So the audio situation is, we'll start from the ground up here. So I have one of these Frameworks podcast arms that a lot of people have. That runs about $130, I think. It used to be the arm that was on the Joe Rogan Experience. Now he's got something else. But it's a great arm, and the thing I love about it is the integrated XLR cables. So there's no secondary wire that's wrapped around it. It's nice and clean. I got my little Bird Dog logo on here as well, and there's one on the underside. When you look on the side shots, you'll see another Bird Dog logo on the underside of that arm, and that just clamps directly to the table. I had to jimmy rig that a little bit because I don't have a huge lip on the table. But anyways, that goes in there. And then XLR to an RE20, which is my own personal microphone, but it's more expensive than I was willing to charge the company to get. So I bought that myself, and it's great. It was between this and the SM7B, and I decided that I didn't really want the proximity effect that the SM7B is notorious. Oh, there's that sticker right there. That it's notorious or known for, I guess. And so this one rejects the proximity stuff, and that's... I think it's a cleaner sound. You know, the range of my voice would obviously adhere to a proximity effect, and that would be, I don't know, maybe something people would want. But for the purposes of this show, I actually want that to be rejected, and that's what this microphone does really well. And that then that cable goes down into a Euphoria UMC 404 HD Behringer interface, which provides the phantom power that's required for this microphone. I'm not thrilled with it, to be honest with you. I use these around the office for microphones and whatever, and I use the this Behringer line, not necessarily the 404. I have a 202, I think, in the rest of the office. It's okay. It's a good USB interface. It's not the fastest. It's not the best, but it gets the job done. And there is a little bit of control that you can use to increase volume and whatever. And if I get a little too excited, then this microphone really picks up. I'm not running a lot of compression or anything inside of vMix, which you could if you wanted to. So anyways, and that plugs in USB, and then I just delay the video. I delay the audio by 200 milliseconds, and that seems to line it up all right inside the show. So I can always verify that by jumping over. Beautiful thing about StreamYard is that you can jump over and click on just view on YouTube and watch the stream that's going on and see what you guys are seeing. So I usually check that before the show starts, and I did that after the show started today, but whatever. Oh, that's interesting. My Stream Deck is not on, so let's fire that up. Stream Deck. There we go. I'll let that come up. All right, now let me jump back to what's going on in the chat here, guys. You guys are keeping the chat going. So that is, Lewis, that is my setup, if that is at all interesting. Resi Analytics will give you a heat map for viewers. Oh, right on. That's cool. I would be, that should be a part of our discussion because it's for like something else I'm up to. But that would be good to know. Hello from Dubai. What's going on? Mohammed, how are you? Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for jumping in on LinkedIn. Appreciate that. So I just set up my new P240 bundle delivered yesterday. Cool. That's exciting. Tell us more. Hey, Gary, I just recovering from a Bird Dog Fest streaming the Virgin Orbit rocket launch from the UK. Oh, that's you. I know this. I know you, Gary. Bird Dog all over the place, including an A300 and a 200. Very cool. Yes, I had heard rumors that you were doing that, mostly because I think we had helped you with something, prior to launch, with an A200, maybe the A300. Anyways, one or the other. But yeah, that's so super cool that you're using Bird Dog gear for that. Because, let me fix this. Let me move this out of my face. Yeah, we love finding out where Bird Dog stuff is popping up. So really cool. Glad to hear that you just got done a big project. Tell us how that went. Be interested to know. I love the form factor, the NUC form factor. I just bought a used one, and it's giving me all kinds of trouble. Buyer beware, I guess. Yeah, see, that's the thing, right? And this is that great conundrum, is the form factor is great, but there are trade-offs. And I have found that you can't just run everything. It's supposed to be a gaming one, I don't know what games they're playing, but nothing I would be able to run. So the integrated graphics and everything, it's kind of lackluster. And I'm actually using Sonnet boxes and integrating a graphics card that way, which also has its problems. But whatevs. vMix doesn't play well, by the way, with the graphics card that I have. So everything is GPU processed except for vMix. vMix is on the CPU, and then everything else is running on the GPU separately, all the other processes on the computer, and that has freed up enough CPU space to run vMix correctly. There are several streams that map the locations at the beginnings of the show. I believe H2R Graphics is working on integrating a map option in the feature, and Aaron does maps on streams. Interesting. I don't know. I wondered if there's just like an app that I can use, right, where I can be like, hey, click on this link and click on the country that you're checking in from, and that would be really cool to like gather that data. It's for sure, definitely it's a future integration thing and not necessarily a requirement. They definitely don't recommend Windows 11 yet. Really? Though it does work. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, when a new operating system comes out and it's got some changes to it, you have to use it for 6 months before you can stand behind it, right? I understand that 11 works if you build it from scratch and not upgrade. It works well if you build it from scratch and not upgrade. Interesting. I know that is the recommendation of vMix quite often. They did a live broadcast the other day, which I thought was interesting. And I watched it after the fact. I didn't get to see it live because it happened right while I was doing dishes from dinner. But yeah, they did a live broadcast, and I didn't get to watch very much of it before I had to kind of close it out. But I found out that they are using the Euphoria UMC 404 HD, the Behringer interface for their audio, and I thought that was very interesting that's what they were using for their live broadcast. I was like, oh, me too. That's nice. I've had some fun with the firmware update at the P240. It does not reboot the 240 after it's finished. Lost IP connection to one camera. I had solved it by using Neuralizer. Yeah, so that... do we want to talk about this update? I guess we better. So there's some weird quirks going on with the firmware process, the update process that we've noticed here in support. And primarily because it takes a USB again to get it done. And it's a major update. And we're seeing just kind of like some unique stuff happening across the board. Sometimes the MICU doesn't go through correctly. Sometimes the firmware doesn't go through correctly. It's not, I won't say it's majority. I'd just say we're seeing people reporting that there have been instances, just like Mr. Stream here says from Berlin, that it seems to, the ones that I've seen, it changes the IP address, for example, so it requests a new IP, and people who are logging into it via the IP can't seem to get to it, but they use the local name, and the local name obviously is the same, and so they're able to get to it, find out what the new IP is. And that's if you don't have access to the routing tables and, to see what MAC addresses are associated with IP addresses. The other way you could do it is, well, no, actually, unfortunately, you can't do it with Studio Monitor, because if you do the firmware update, the baseboard update, and then you need to do the firmware update next, there's no NDI being generated. And that's actually a part of some of the fundamental changes that are happening behind the scenes. In particular, the communication bridge is being increased. And so it's changing. And so that's it. Basically, the camera will not work unless you do both parts. And if the IP changes, then obviously that's going to be difficult to do part two. So know the short name that you're using, or in this case, Mr. Berlin has said he used Neuralizer on it, and that seems to have set it straight for him. So there you go. Ember is making the show today. Yeah, so this show is not brought to you by Ember Mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled, but holding steady at 125 degrees. So it's pretty good. And Brayton has made coffee here this morning, so I think it was Brayton. Somebody made coffee this morning, and we're drinking that today on the show. So they're from Scotland. Who's from? Oh, these are from Scotland. Okay, cool. Well, giddy up. Let's find out if they are cakes or biscuits, because they say both. They say both. Can you do a show about getting the optimum image quality out of P200 cameras? A lot of people are having issues with noise in the signal, even with sharpness turned all the way down and gain off. Well, yes, I'd be happy to do that. We have done that before here on the show. The thing I will caution you about that is a highly subjective that's a highly subjective term. Getting the best image quality out of P200. What I think looks great is not necessarily what everybody else thinks looks great. And I've had this problem multiple times when helping people, like we'll get a church. They don't really have a production crew. They don't know what they're doing. They broke the bank buying 3 cameras and a keyboard. And they call us and they're like, we can't get these things to look great. Well, out of the gates, the more light, the better. I'm going to put it that way. And churches are particularly struggling with lighting in their auditorium, because when they roll up, they think we have adequate lighting, and you have adequate lighting for your irises, but not for a camera that's trying to give true white balances. And especially if you buy a P200, that's a broadcast lens, right? So broadcast lens is going to expect studio lighting. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have it, but it does mean that it's going to expect that if you're going to want that sort of peak performance. And so although it doesn't look it here in my studio, I have a lot of light, way more. Like the Falcon Eyes is cranked up, and that means that I can pull that gain all the way out. And so I need to use very little gain, which gives my blacks very, deep blacks that I can get. And it gives, they're kind of over, it's over crushed a little bit. But anyways, it gives me that sort of level of black control that I want in the shot because I've got a ton of light. And in real world situations, that's not necessarily always possible. And so you're going to have to compromise. If you buy a broadcast lens, you're going to have to compromise with, fake gain. And that's very true in a lot of churches around the world, because they're buying the cameras first and then they're worrying about the lighting second, or they buy the cameras thinking, I have enough light, and come to find out they don't have studio lighting. They have, lighting for lecturing and for presentations and whatever. And that's okay for people sitting in the audience, but it's not okay if you're zooming in, 20 times opticals and trying to get a shot that way. So you got to be a little bit careful with, that. But yes, I mean, Nate, I'd be happy to talk about the feature set. It's actually going to be a part of an education module that I'm currently working on, because the P200 is our most popular camera as of today. We've sold the most of those, if that's how we're going to rank popularity. We've sold the most P200s than any other camera in our fleet. And so that module is coming, and that will be something that I talk about at great length about cameras. But the general rule is, if you're having a problem with noise and you're having problems with sharpness and all of that, lighting is probably the issue. And that I get that all the time. Hey, it's John. Hey, what's going on, Senseless? Hopefully you're doing well. Hey, what was that light that you were talking about at about $100? It's called a Falcon Eyes. Let me jump over to my screen share real quick. Actually, I could do it here because this will make more sense. The one that I bought was just off of Amazon, and that light. Am I logged in here? No. The Falcon Eyes. This one. It's $135, and let me throw this up on Present, screen share, tab, Amazon. Now you can buy these. You can buy these anywhere. They're all over the place. But yoink, this is the one that I'm using. It's not huge. It's only 28 watts, and I think it's 5 inches. Might be more. Well, let's just look at the website and take a look. 4 grooves, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah. What else we got here? Actually have dimension. I think it is 5, because they have a 7-inch version, so they have bigger versions of this. And so far so good. What I really like, super thin, first of all, right? You can run it off of batteries if you want, so you could take it into the field. Has this little LED screen on it that helps you know what Kelvin you're running at. So if you have a particular studio with a particular Kelvin level, it'll tell you what temperature the light is. The U bracket is actually quite nice. It doesn't come with anything else, no stand or anything. Oh, there you go. So it's 35 centimeters across for those of you not in the States. But yeah, this little LED screen is kind of nice. And you can turn the light down, you can turn it up in terms of power, so up to 100%. Or you can, and you can change the Kelvin rating on it. So there are these steps that you can use, and it genuinely does it. But this is what comes in the box: power supply, light, and a little carrying bag, which is here somewhere. I just don't know where. But the little carrying bag is nice if you're using it for a shoot. Oh, did that? Am I still? Yeah, okay. So you can still see that. Anyways, Falcon Eyes. It's a brand name. It works really well. I've had good success with it so far. Seems to be working all right. I use it, and I would recommend it. If you just got a small studio set, you can buy big ones too. If you have no budget, if you have sky's the limits from oh, there we go. Hey, what's going on, Lewis? Now you're over on LinkedIn. Thanks for jumping on. I got my first set of bird dogs last week, same 240 bundle. Boom. Updating seems to have been okay for me so far. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Working at the support desk, all we hear about are the people that have the issues. So if you didn't have any issues with the update process, please let me know, because we'd also like to know that information. That would be good. RE20 is what I got. Are you using a cloud lifter? No, I'm using a Euphoria. Euphoria UMC 404 HD user interface that supplies the 48 volts, and that seems to work pretty well. Yep, it was a great event. I also used the new multi-viewer. Nice. Ooh, I like the new multi-viewer program. It's good stuff. NDI remote needed 3 seconds to toggle camera remote. Is that normal? NDI remote? You mean the new tech program? NDI remote? Be a little more specific there. NDI remote needed 3 seconds to toggle the camera remote. Yeah, give me a little bit more there, because I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to. Are you talking about like NDI bridge? Or are you talking about cloud? Or are you talking about what specifically? I know that there is a remote program, right? Like, yeah, give me a little bit more, and I'm happy to go down that road. I don't know much about NDI Bridge, if that's what you're using, that free program from NewTek. I don't know much about it. You know, our focus is on Bird Cloud. That gives you a whole lot more control over what it is that you're doing. So yeah, just give me a little bit more information there on that. Hey, what's going on, MTash? Did you get my email with that contact info that you're looking for? Yeah, did you not get my response? I totally wrote back to you this morning. Yes, I did. Thank you so much for sending that over. I appreciate it. Angus, sorry that you didn't realize that you were referring to Nuck. I thought you meant generally. He was just saying those Nucks are great, except they have their quirks, and I would completely agree with you. There is value in building your own machine. Or ordering one from Tom Sinclair down at Eastern Shore Broadcasting. He builds vMix machines for a living. So if you haven't done so already, little shout out to my friend Tom, easternshorebroadcasting.com. If you're looking for a vMix computer solution, including a vMix license and Bird Dog cameras, you can go through Mr. Tom Sinclair, who is a legend in the streaming world. And he has a show twice a week, or he has a show once a week on Wednesdays over on his YouTube channel at Streaming Idiots. So it's a little bit strange that he calls himself an idiot, but you need a Falcon sound. It's true. I do need it. I need a. Oh, that's a great idea. It's so funny because they play a Falcon sound when they're referencing eagles, but eagles actually have more of a screech than they do like an actual falcon, like the call. Like when you think of the sound an eagle makes, typically Hollywood uses a falcon sound, not like a falcon call and not a eagle. But the eagle ones are more like chirps and screeches than anything. It's not very majestic, which is why they swapped it out all those years ago. Anyways, fun fact, everybody. Hollywood lies to you. All right. Hey, I just jumped on the stream, so my apologies. This has already been covered. Can anyone verify that the brand new MICU for the PTZ keyboard is making the keyboard unusable? I can deny that. The latest firmware update for the keyboard, and that's 610, by the way, is for a very specific keyboard. Make sure you're putting the correct one on. That's not the latest and greatest. That's for Model 3. So if you have an older keyboard, then you need to be using one of the other. They're all the same firmware, but there's 3 different models. So using number 6 doesn't mean that you have the latest. That's for a specific model. If you're finding that your keyboard is unusable after an update, you may need to verify that you're using the right baseboard version for your unit, primarily because there were 3 manufacturing runs that happened with keyboard, and we ran out of the ability to source specific parts, and so the keyboards perform the same. They're the same thing, but they have different parts inside because of pandemic. The component rigmarole that we had to go through. So there are 3 different keyboard baseboards. So if you're finding that 610 is making it unusable, you may be putting the wrong baseboard on your device. And you may need to use 3 or you may need to use 1, depending on which baseboard you have. So double check that in the manual to make sure you're using the right one. I love the NUC Xenon, the Quartz Xenon. I have two, one with Quadros 2200s and the other with an RTX 2070. Jeez, how many body parts did you have to sell to get those things, Sherman? I'm using Magewell M2 Quad SDI and Blackmagic Ultra Studio 4Ks for key and fill outputs from vMix. Very cool. Ooh, I've been looking at some of that. I've been trying to see what device offerings Blackmagic has, because other than the things that, you know, we're directly trying to support through BirdDog, they have a lot of other stuff like multi-viewers and whatever, right? So past couple of days I've been trying to like familiarize myself with what offerings they have, because I'd be really I need to know. Anyways, I'll put it that way. I'm excited to start testing out the 5.5 camera and keyboard updates. Excellent. Let us know how that goes. You know where to reach us if there's ever an issue. Right here on this show, but also help@birddog.tv is where my squad of ticketing agents, they hang out there all day. And we've seen some ebbs and flows over the past few days, especially with the launch of this latest firmware. And so if you need a hand, do not forget that there is free support available. And the priority that we make for support as of today, the rule is it's when you submitted the ticket. So get your question in and we'll get it in line and we'll try and give you a hand. So help@birddog.tv is where you can reach out to us and we'd be happy to give you a hand. We really want your thing to work. We promise you. And our guys respond to every ticket that comes in. We never put stuff off just because, you know, you don't rank high enough. That's not what we're doing over here. We want your stuff to work and promise you our guys will get back to you as soon as they can. And generally, we'll get back to you and tell you, hey, we don't have answers for this yet. We're talking to engineers. There's an engineering meeting tonight. So that might be one of the reasons why we're holding on some of that stuff. But we will communicate with you. It is one of the things that I think sets BirdDog apart from the industry is we have a team of support people who genuinely want to get your stuff working. Nobody's reading from the manual. No one has a big book of answers. We are doing this with you, and we want to make this happen. So the way we do that is via ticketing. The way we do that is over email, and that helps us keep first things first and get you guys kind of sorted in order. And the truth is that we don't prioritize people over others. It drives people who have had that luxury and service before, it drives them crazy because they're used to paying a premium and getting preferential treatment. But the deal with BirdDog is the only way, like we could fire that up, but then what does that say for people who can't afford that service, right? So I'm pulling. Again, it drives people crazy, but I want to treat everybody as equals here, and I want to address things as they come up. And hopefully you won't need to have a whole bunch of tickets submitted. So, I mean, the remote via NDI at the controller. Oh, you mean the BirdDog keyboard? Is that what you mean? The remote control, the controller for, gotcha. Okay, so now we'll cycle back here to what you said. Okay, so the latest firmware update fixes that delay. So do the latest firmware update, and then that delay should be gone. Check that out. That was just put on the website. Was it put on the website? It was put on the website the other day, I believe. Let me look, because I think they said it launched, and then we looked on the website and it hadn't been posted. Let me just give me a second. I'll tell you if it's there. What is this? It's under cameras for some reason. Why is the keyboard under cameras? It should be under accessories. Yes, 224. 224 is the firmware that you want. It was posted on January 25th, which was yesterday. So giddy up. Do 224 on your keyboard, and that should fix that delay that you're experiencing. Hey, if you're talking about the keyboard, then the new firmware fixes that problem. There, I should just read the next message. I'm having an issue with the MICU that comes up with that update. So be sure that you're putting the correct MICU on that keyboard. You likely have a keyboard that needs 3, not 6. That's why I'm saying 3 is the most prevalent keyboard that's out there. So double check. I'm at the new firmware. So you updated this yesterday with the proper MICU? I can use the F buttons to switch from one camera to the other. Can use it. Yeah, so that's the new default too. If you're not using the F buttons, in the release notes it says the F buttons now by default are cameras 1 through 6, which is really cool. It's helpful that they standardized that. The 224 version, that's the version that fixed it for me. I'm currently running 609 on MICU, and the switching on the control is instant. Giddy up. NDI remote takes 3 seconds to toggle on the camera. Is that normal? Depending on the internet connected. Yeah. There's also like a network conversation to happen there, but generally it needs to be, you need to run 224 and that should fix it. I have 3 BirdDog P100 cameras. Is it possible to connect? Is that a brand name of a joystick? I've never heard of that if that's a joystick. No idea. I've never heard of it. What protocols does that joystick use? If it uses Sony Visca IP, yes. If it's using RS-232, in theory, yes. Or 422, again, better than 232, but in theory, yes. But I don't know. I've never heard of that joystick before. I don't know if it would work or not. So please let us know if that is happening. I'm also using the B keyboard, and that is the MICU that I'm installing. It makes all of my buttons almost non-responsive from the keyboard firmware update notes. The B folder version is 6010. That I don't know. I don't know if that's correct, but it was working for me on 224 on 609. I have to double check that for you, Jeff, because I don't know. It doesn't sound right. It sounds like you should be on 3, but maybe not. I don't even know if I have a 6 keyboard in this office. Yeah, let me double check. I'll see if I can get one of my guys to look into it. That's what I have used. I'm at 214 LTS. Yeah. So go to 224. That should fix it. Wow, this has been a lot. Whoa. We're almost done the first hour here. Hey, let's switch over to a little. Oh, that doesn't work anymore. Fantastic. Let's switch over and get ready to do our little segment here, Snacks on the Street.
John's just making up stuff to start drama.
Look, I don't know.
Look at him.
Wish me luck, folks. It's my first Vegemite experience.
Final, this is like cheese flavor or something. It doesn't really look too appetizing.
Good golly, this is something else, man.
Here's the thing about Pop Rocks, and I don't know if I'm the only one like this. Pop Rocks have always been a social experience for me.
I did not think that is what you were going to say. That's hilarious.
That is awful. Oh, God, that's so bad. Jeez.
What the? Hey, what's going on, everybody? So the playlist is still running, evidently. Whoops-a-daisy. So, all right. Well, that was an abrupt ending, but yeah, we'll jump on over here to Yoink Snacks on Stream. Today we are trying out 6 tea cakes by some Scottish firm, and it's still a family business, which I think is funny because that could be read a few ways. Like, well, still technically a family business, or wow, we've been around since 1890. It's still a family business. You know, I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I don't know if they're proud of that fact, or if if their sons and daughters have gone different ways in life, and they've somehow managed to keep it a family business. But anyways, they've left. Balu has given me 4 biscuits / cakes, and the word on the street is that we don't know what that is, and so there you go. We don't I don't know what I'm getting into, but yeah, here's hoping. Kind of a cool little wrapping. Some sort of delicacy from, I don't know where. But we're about to find out. These kind of look like, I have seen something similar to these in Canada, and I forget what they were called, but I had them as a kid, so they that's what they remind me of, at least. So let's give these a try while we continue to chat about NDI stuff. So there you go. Cut this. Okay, so yoink. This is what I can download. BirdDog 240.8.9. It contains the keyboard. What? It shouldn't contain that file for some reason. I did submit a ticket. Good. You did exactly as I would hope you would. Always submit a ticket. This is the keyboard. Yeah, I've never heard of this thing. The NKB 1000. NKB 1000. Dahua Technology. Oh, this looks like a Sony. It looks like a rebranded Sony controller. All right, so you have RS422 reserved. What does that mean? RS232. So those are two protocols that we do talk, which are pretty standard. So there's a good chance that this would work. And what other interface do you have here? It doesn't say Visca IP. So yeah, your connectors RS232 and RS422 are probably your only options with this guy. So you'll need to set the cameras in those modes and probably create a crossover cable to correctly come out of the keyboard and into that camera. So there you go. Potentially, it might potentially work. The protocols are the protocols are listed on their website. So on the BirdDog downloads page, be sure to scroll down and get the download listed under the keyboard. It's not included in the camera. Oh, sorry, that was for the camera. I'll try the update again. Right on. Oh, and Balu has listed over on Twitch probably the product for these, the Snacks on Stream. Let's dive into this and see what we're getting into here. Here we go. Oh. It has like I don't know if that's a marshmallow or cream or what is that? Seems like a very weak marshmallow. Chocolate mallow is what we're going to call it. I don't care for the cookie taste in this thing. But not bad. Not too bad. Where it all began. Tom Tunnock, the founder, outside of his bakery shop in where? Dublin, Ireland. Or maybe that's just where. Oh no, Scotland, sorry. 34 Old Mill Road is where this the best before date is on the front of the pack. Uh-oh. And it's not on the front of the pack. Oh, here it is. March 25th. Well, it's very specific. 2023. So that's what they're supposed to taste like. Okay. Well, I might have to try another one just to give it a good, be sure that I said that I gave it a go. But we will, we'll pack up the rest for the office mates, as they say in Aussie land. And yeah, special shout out to Balu for making that happen today. What a Scottish delicacy. Pretty good. It tastes like cream to me, yes. It's some sort of chocolate mallow. Not too sure what that means, but there you go. If you try and install the 610, please let me know if that works. not too bad. Be honest, they are pretty grim. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to them, like it's mostly air with like a very thin coating of chocolate. They're not terrible. I don't know if you can make a living off of making these. I mean, evidently that family has, or maybe it's a side hustle. I don't know. Everybody's got a side hustle these days, right? Yeah. The ones in Canada are very similar to this, smaller, and a harder chocolate shell. And there was something in the middle of them. I think it was like a strawberry, like jelly or something. I gotta Google that. Now it's gonna bug me. Yeah. All right. The second one was no better, no worse. If these appeared in our office, and somebody said, you should try one, I definitely would have another one. All good. They're not bad. There's a total of 12, 4 of them with you, and 8 of them are out here. Oh, man. Have at them or not. Oh, okay. So there's a whole bunch out there, are they? Okay. It's up to you. Brayton said they're Scottish moon pies. There you go. All right, maybe that's what I should be. Chocolate Mallow Canada. Let's see what else we've got here. Yeah. They kind of look like Whippets? That's not it. What are they called? Mallomars? Nope, that's not it. Maybe they went out of business. No, you don't say. But they came in a box, and then they're individually wrapped. Chocolate mallow cookies? What on earth is going on out in the lobby? Whippets. That keeps coming up over and over, which is kind of what it looks like, but sounds like somebody got shot outside. Wagon wheels. Oh man, it's been a long time since I've had a wagon wheel. There, that's a walk down memory lane. I never had wagon wheels until I came to the States, which was like 15, 20 years ago. Man, what were those things called? It's going to drive me crazy. Marshmallow cookies. I'm going to put Canada on here because there they are. Viva Puffs. Oh, yeah. Here we go, boys and girls. Giddy up. Wait, where's this? Share this screen. Dang it. StreamYard, I need you to be more intuitive. Viva Puffs. From a company called Dare. All right, so here we go. Yoink. This is what my childhood had right here. Imported from Canada. I didn't know the company was called Dare, but Viva Puffs is the deal, and it had a raspberry filling. The cream was not like these. Okay, so since these are mine, so the cream was not like these, where it was like quite soft. It was like a harder marshmallow almost, and then inside there was like a raspberry filling and whatever. So this is what I recall from my childhood, and it went in line with these caramel, which are basically the same thing but with caramel in the middle, and then these Joe Louis. Oh my gosh, these things, or Joe Louis as we used to call them back in Canada. If you ever want to become my best friend, right here, the original. Yeah. This is how you become my best friend. Right here is the full size. You got to have the full size, but this is like the pinnacle of lunch snack because it's basically chocolate cake. So good, so good. Anyway. There you go. the P200 configuration, when we set the frames per second to 250 to 25 or 50, the shutter speed is only available in multiples of 30. Can it be modified for a European format and still adhere to 25 shutter 1/50 rule? I hope I explained myself well enough in English. That's interesting, actually. But the shutter speed is limited to 30s and 60s. Is that right? It doesn't seem right to me. I need to get power. So I did get my guys to give me a P200 that's running 8.9 and to have all of those things. So let me disconnect my earpiece real quick, and let me see if I can find an Ethernet cord that's over here. Yeah, the problem is that I didn't get an Ethernet cable to plug the thing into. So just give me a second. I will jump over and try, and I'm just going to run a video real quick. I'm going to try and get where are we here? Yeah, I'm just going to try and get a cable and plug it in, but I need about a minute. So I'll be right back. Well, the bad news is that all of my ports on my 4250 are being used in some way or another. So I can't seem to fire up this P200 to take a look at that. So what I'll do is I'll log into the P200 that you're currently looking at, and we'll take a look, see, and hopefully it doesn't jack up too much. It's always good to use the primary camera that you have in the studio as the one that you're going to run the experiment on live on the show. This is advice that you should never take seriously. Let's check it out. See what we can come up with here. I'm going to clear your question real quick. This would probably taste better if it was deep fried in batter. Probably. Good stuff. Okay, so now I have the right version on It's Solved. Jeff Moore, thanks for guiding me through that. Excellent. I'd love to hear that you were able to fix that issue while here on the show. Hey, look, that's what we're here for, folks, to facilitate conversations between us and with you and other customers, getting your stuff taken care of. Shot? Something similar? I forgot what I said back then. Sorry about that. All right, two things. First, let me show you my yoink. Okay, so here is the web interface for my P200 that I'm currently using. And it's not really giving me too much valid information here. Okay, so under cam control, and let's just go through some of these options. Yeah, we've got 1/60 and then 1/30. This is something interesting. I'm not too sure if this is how this would work for you. But when you set it to 25 and then you set your shutter rate at 1/30, what does it look like? Because you're right, there is no option here for anything other than 15, 30, 60. And does it look wrong? Does it look like it's not 25 frames? Because I understand why you want to go to 1/50, but I'd be interested, or like if you go to 1/60 while you're running 25 or 50, what does it really look like? I'd like to hear more about how you see that as not looking right, and maybe it's obvious. I don't, here in the States, we don't necessarily use 25 and 50, although over in Europe that is a standard, and so we get that, why that would be needed. So yeah, I'd be very interested to know a little bit more about that specific about that specific frame rate and then the shutter speed that you have. What is the end goal? What are you actually trying to achieve? Other than does it look wrong? Like if it looks wrong, then that's something we need to, investigate. I'd also be curious to know what the options are on the P240, right? So let me try and get to that web interface real quick. Open up Studio Monitor. Go to the 240. Yoink. Open the web UI. All right, so now let's stop the playlist. Let's go back to the web UI. This is the 240. We need to log into it. Because this is the next generation of the 200 camera, right? So whether that's just a limitation, I don't know. But cam control. And then exposure. 1/60, 1/50. So this one has the 1/50. And it has 1/20 or 1/30. It doesn't have the 25. But you could set it to 50 if that's what you wanted. Interesting. Very interesting. So the 240 does it, but at least on this version of the firmware, it doesn't have 1/50. I don't see that as a feature that they'd be able to write on. But on 6.4, which is the one directly in front of 8.9, in the chain, it's not doing it at 1/50. So I don't know if they would be able to write that into a firmware update or not. I can certainly ask. I mean, the engineering meeting is tonight, so we could roll that past them and see what they say. It's only available in multiples of 30, so it can be modified for European format to adhere to the 1/50 rule. Certainly is an interesting. I'm not too sure why it's not an option, because this lens could probably do it. I don't know though for sure. It's also weird that this 200 that is running is not reporting anything on the dashboard. It's showing 0 resolution. So, maybe that's not a good test. What? Maybe that's not a very good test, Interesting. Well, my kids are outside playing in the snow. Yeah, we have had quite a snow. Yesterday, our office was closed. The physical office was closed. We were logged in online at our homes. But the physical office was closed because we had quite a bit of snow. And that was an interesting day. It snowed pretty much all day. So when the office would have opened, it wasn't terrible. But by the time it would have been closing, it was in pretty rough shape. So I got a pain on my leg. So yeah, we did shut down the office and just had everybody work from home yesterday. A couple of the guys still came in because they're suckers for punishment, but we definitely got a little bit of snow at the office. And so this is what it looks like outside right now. This is just on low bandwidth. That's why it's kind of fuzzy. But yeah, we've got a little bit of snow hanging out on Auburn Road here at the office. This is what Michigan looks like. So our friends down there at the gas station are busy. The roads are okay. They're mostly wet today. I mean, it is currently it's 30 degrees outside, so it is below freezing, but they're not too bad. And we're doing all right. We're surviving. Most of us came in today, with the exception of one agent who lives very far away. So we let her work from home. Sorry for the noise. We're rowdy. Yeah, I heard that, and I'm gonna have a talk with your boss about that. So we use 2550 in case the images are used on TV. 60 frames would be ideal only for online uses. Well, and for US TV and for a bunch of other reasons. But yeah, I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but I posted right at the beginning of the year. I said this year resolved to use progressive and not interlaced, and I got a lot of traffic on that post. A lot of people liked it. So, what's going on, Tom? Hello. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for jumping on the show today. It's okay to be a couple minutes late. Always welcome. There's always a seat at the table for you, man. Are you using vMix Social? I don't believe it removes or deletes or redacted comments. I'm not using vMix Social. That's an interesting idea, because we have a Twitter account with the support guys, and so we could pull in information from there, or you guys could tweet at us, I guess. But I'm using StreamYard, and that's bringing in all this information, so it's good stuff. A couple of times you mentioned the last Studio Mini updates were a year ago, but they didn't get LTS, so they're still on 3.0 firmware. Did I miss something? Nope, you are correct. They are still on the last 3 update, which I think it's like 3.6.6 for one of them and 3.6.7 for the other. But yeah, it has been a long time since they've been updated. The team is well aware of this, and they are planning on publishing an NDI 5 final update for it that will bring them up to speed. Obviously, the next generation products are the ones that are getting priority, and so 4K Family, Flex, Play, Wallplate, SDM, and I think that's all of them, right? Yeah. So those ones are all kind of getting high priority right now, but those 2 legacy units that are from the first generation of stuff the plan is to still give them NDI 5. So fingers crossed. What version of the MICU is on there now? Conversation's still going on that I'm happy to facilitate between these two. I'm thrilled that you guys are chatting. I've been motivated by today's stream to update my keyboard firmware. Is the order important? Do I do the firmware first and then the upgrade, or the NDI, or vice versa? Upgrading NDI to 5.5. So the keyboard order, you should, unless specified in the manual for the fleet, it's always baseboard first, then firmware. So double check the manual though, because I think there's one product out there, I'm getting rusty. There's one product out there where it's flipped, and that I think it may be the keyboard. Double check with my boys in the office, but read the manual, because the manual will tell you what order to do it in. And if there is a difference, it will be listed in that manual, because I know the one product, I think it's keyboard, that we need to do the opposite is listed that way in the manual for the update process. When we prepare some tutorials in Spanish, I will need to learn how to speak Spanish if you're hoping I am going to generate Spanish tutorials. I do have a friend who could dub over my videos. He lives in South America, Filippo, but I would need to have him come into the office and do that with me, and that would be quite... Actually... that's an interesting idea. Lewis. See. All right. Well, let me think about that, because there might be some options for that. Let me think. We really like the loop through on the Mini, and the Flex doesn't give us that. It's true. The Flex doesn't give you a loop, but you know what does? 4K Fam. So that was the next step in the iteration. That Mini has a loop out. Studio has a loop out as well. And it was great for direct HDMI in, HDMI out, or SDI in, SDI out. But the Studio has one, the Mini has one, and we are listening. I'm not privy to the development of potential new products, but I do know that BirdDog listens to its crowd, and when good ideas are said out loud, they are taken with some weight. So I'm not saying there's anything in the works. I don't know. Officially, I don't know if anything like that is coming at let's just say a lower price point, because I think that's what you're driving at here. Is the Mini was HDMI in, HDMI out, NDI out, or in, and it's a very basic product. I don't know if they're thinking about generating something like that again. It'd be really cool if they had like a Flex Pro or something that could do loop out and had a little LED screen on it. There's big potential there for that. But converters, converters have their place in the world, but really the cameras are the thing that drive a lot of the decisions in the world. So I don't know. I don't know what the future looks like, but I know that, like, the introduction of the Play and with the oncoming Pod, there's a huge potential there for integration, right? Especially with the API, huge integration potential. And the Play will likely become one of those products that we can't keep enough of them on the shelf when they really start getting integrated with a couple of specific companies that we're working with. And so there's big things on the horizon for that. More news on that when it happens. It is the keyboard, and the A200, A300 do not have a baseboard update. Wait, I missed something here. Give me a little more info there, TSO Imaging. The keyboard was NDI via interface, then USB stick. Boom. Thank you, Alex. So do the firmware first, then do the USB update. There you go. It's not written there at 214. It was B, firmware version 607. BirdDog John, there are tools for live language translation. Use AI to do that. I know, that's kind of where my brain went. But it'd be really cool to give Filippo some airtime too. So I don't know if my diction would be appropriate for AI to translate, but there are options. That's one of the places my brain went. You can add Filippo with NDI Bridge. What's going on, MX Rules? If you installed the brand new keyboard file, you should be on 610. Can you check your keyboard info? Yeah, go to setup, super secret password, and then put in keyboard settings and scroll down to model info, and that's where you'll find that information. We need a Play encoder now. Encoder? Hey, what's going on, Silas? How are you, man? A Play encoder. Would it still be called Play? Interesting. Who needs a Play encoder? Don't we call that Flex in? Anyway. Hey, TSO is Gary. And it's the keyboard that the update process is reversed. Boom. TSO Gary is also jumping in with the answers. What is your opinion? I have a lot of opinions. Just brace yourself. Is the delay the same in all the P200 outputs? We always use them by NDI, and we have this doubt, I suppose, that SDI NDI is less. So the NDI encode is based off the SDI output. So here's what's happening. The image is hitting the lens. It's going down the ribbons and hitting the baseboard. The baseboard is processing this image and then sending it out the SDI port, the HDMI port, and then sending it to the NDI chip. The NDI chip is encoding and then turning it around and shooting it out the NIC card. The encode process is clocked at 1 frame. And so your SDI output and your NDI output should be 1 frame difference. That's the expectation of full NDI. we say 1 to 2 frames, but really we've seen it clocked right around 1. And so that's to give us a little bit of breathing room just so people don't constantly hold our feet over the fire. But the delay, like the actual delay that people notice is on all cameras when the image hits the lens, goes down the ribbons, and gets processed through the baseboard. That's the camera latency. But NDI latency is based off the SDI output. So if you have an output on the SDI, you have a monitor on that, and you have same make and model monitor on watching the NDI feed, I don't know how you do that. It should be 1 frame difference. What product do I need to convert 4K HDMI to NDI? You actually answered your own question. The product is called the 4K HDMI. Is literally the name of the product. 4K family. Now, you could also use, if you want to convert it, how? So, convert it to NDI, you could use a Flex-In. They do 4K. But it depends on what exact resolution you're talking about. 2160p 30, p60. What do you want to do? Check the tech specs on the website for those specific products. Both of those products have physical fans inside to keep them cool and to keep price down. So you'll make sure they're well ventilated. But yeah, 4K HDMI is the flagship product, but the 4K Flex, the Flex-In in particular. So the 4K HDMI can do encoding or decoding. So you can set it in one or the other modes. The Flex-In is strictly an encoder. And so the price point is a lot less. There's a lot less programming that needs to go into a product like that. And the form factor is much smaller. We don't need to have quite as big of a product, but it doesn't have loop out. Whereas the 4K HDMI does. So, what do you need? What features do you want? 4K HDMI, I'm sorry, the 4K HDMI is the flagship, but the Flex-In is strictly an NDI HDMI encoder, and it works great. So there you go. I'm sorry. I'm still confused because both keyboard and NDI are referring to as firmware release notes and then BirdDog PTZ keyboard, then firmware 224 or 214. I'm still confused because both keyboard and NDI? Both keyboard and NDI referred to as firmware release notes. Both keyboard and NDI. And then BirdDog PTZ keyboard. Yeah, I'm confused too. Try that one more time, MTash. Just give me a little more. In the owner's manual, there's a link to firmware updates, which takes me to the birddog.tv site and all the BirdDog units, firmwares, and manuals. Yeah, so firmware updates, right, is birddog.tv/downloads. And then there's a key on the camera website. There are downloads for cameras, every camera, and then there's a download for the keyboard at the bottom of that list. I don't know why keyboard is not under accessories because it should be, but it's on the cameras list. So now with that information out there, ask your question again specifically. Also, are you going to have delay from the sensor to the output? Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. Well, that's what I mean is sensor down the ribbon to the baseboard. That's the majority of the delay in the camera itself. That's not something BirdDog controls. And then so if people are like, oh, it's not 1 frame latency to what's happening on stage. It's like, well, no, there's a mechanical device that's encoding what it sees, the image that it sees on the sensor into ones and zeros, and the data then needs to go out not only the NDI chip at an additional frame, but the SDI and the HDMI port. So yeah, there'll be a little bit of processing happening there for sure. Okay. Going FS7 to network, we'll need to check outputs on FS7. I admit that I have watched that video again with the YouTube translation. There are things that I miss in English. Yes. And my ums and ahs and all of that stuff that I try and strip out of there probably doesn't help. So maybe it would be good to get a native speaker in the studio and just have him do the audio file, and then we could have a Spanish version, you know. Hey, on the new cam control, I noticed that the gain on the cameras act differently. I find that I can have the bass set low and higher on the max, but I'm noticing that it needs to be higher than before to give me enough light. Are the values different than before? I also am having some noise. I've managed to reduce that, but still not as pretty as it was before. Any suggestions? Using cameras in theater low light conditions, as we always have. Okay, so low light conditions are obviously, I was just going to say, noise is introduced by a lack of light. And so you got to have an abundance of that. And if you're not, we can compensate for some of that, but it's going to be, you are going to be trading a little bit. Now, from what I understand, there aren't any fundamental changes on how the differences between the low and the maximum for the settings inside the camera. Those shouldn't have changed. However, I know that when they went from pre-LTS to LTS, they enabled, it used to be like 1 through 8, and now there's like 128 settings, you know, so they made it much more like to dial it in a fair bit more. And so you may be finding those, if you're coming from a older firmware and you're moving to NDI 5 or you're going to LTS, yes, the sensitivity of the lens may be more incremental. And so you are going to need to play around with that a fair bit. Now, cam control is great. Now, be sure, first off, there is an update for cam control, so be sure that you're running the latest and it's not some legacy version that you've had from previous. So get the latest cam control version, because that also has been updated to reflect the changes that happen in LTS and NDI 5. But, you know, definitely, I mean, if it were me, I would probably be going to the web UI and walking through each of the features and making sure that they are as you expect them to be. But they likely, if you're experiencing that sort of stuff where the sensitivity seems different, then you may have changed over to the latest firmware or a newer firmware, and that has, you know, some of those, like I said, incremental updates have changed, and the value system has changed. So in some regards, it was like 0 through 8, and now it's like negative 64 to plus 128 or something like that. So it will be much more, those numbers will not be aligned up to what they were before. So be sure that you check that out first, because that is potentially what's going on. Again, make sure you have the latest cam control version, because if you don't, then that older cam control version is going to be changing the values differently on the camera than what they show on the web UI. So be sure that you're running the latest on that too. Yeah, I've got to go teach and missed your answer to me. I'll watch the replay if you have any questions. Yeah, my only answer was, can you redefine the question for me now that I have said those things that I said? So yeah, shoot me an email at help and we will walk you through what's going on. My question HDMI to NDI. Currently I'm running an FS7 and I want to not use a capture card. As you said, I need to understand what HDMI outputs I can get from the FS7 to convert. Yes. Sorry, I'm watching on a phone and my typing is terrible. It's all good. No worries. So if that's the case, you need to know exactly what resolutions you can output from FS7. And then if it's, you know, a SMPTE resolution, so 2160p 30 is good on both devices. I don't know about Flex in with 2160p 60. I think it might be limited. birddog.tv/flex tech specs. Let's find out. Oh, there we go. 2160p 30 is the ceiling for Flex. So if you're doing 30 frames and you don't need to go higher in the future, fine. If you need to go to 60, I believe that is what the 4K family can do. So we go over to 4K family tech specs. 60 is listed as a UHD 3840 by 2160 at 60 frames. So depending on what you need, there are varying products that can do that. And honestly, the chip inside the 4K family is a little more higher horsepower. than the Flex, and so it can do higher frame rates. That's the expectation, at least. But all good. Yeah, if you know what resolution you're coming out of the FS7 and for the foreseeable future, then a Flex in might be all you need. So I'm going from an older firmware. It's a new version of Cam Control. My lighting guy may just not be boosting as much. I went through the web UI and they're all the same, and they are all the same. Okay, I will just keep playing. Thanks for telling me. I appreciate it. Of course. Sorry that your name comes through as Facebook user, but thanks for jumping on. I appreciate that. Always, questions are always welcome. Yeah, lighting is always going to be number one. I mean, and just like bad audio will make people not watch your video, poor lighting will make your video look like crap. So if it's low lighting situation, fine. If you've updated, though, be sure that you update everything. So uninstall Cam Control, install the latest version. Check out what firmware version you have on the cameras, because they may be talking different languages. And so the latest Cam Control version is intended for the latest firmware version. So check that out. Sounds like 4K family. Thanks. I'll check that out. You are welcome. Of course, bring your questions back whenever you have questions. Be happy to help you with that. Well, it's 12:30. My coffee's still sitting here. I must be talking too much here because I've got lots of coffee. I'll try and get through that before the end of the show. Hello, John. Fun fact. Whenever I check NDI to SDI and cut it, for example, TriCaster or vMix, Blackmagic card, and as source a BirdDog camera, I don't see any delay. That's just possible if SDI is hold back? Whenever I check NDI to SDI and cut it, oh, I see. For example, on a TriCaster or vMix, you're not seeing any delay, the difference between SDI and NDI. Well, it would be very difficult for the naked eye to differentiate one frame. And so, in theory, the average person who's using this and who isn't putting this through some sort of SDI scan is probably not going to notice a major difference. You really shouldn't. That's the whole proclamation of full NDI is you really shouldn't notice. You shouldn't notice a difference between the two outputs, which is why NDI is so insanely versatile, because now you're not limited to how long your BNC cable is. Now you can send this all around your complex. You can send it all over the place with one frame, and it's extremely fast. I've heard guys like installers say like, oh, I can't use it because iMag, everything's important. You know, every frame is important. It's like, fair enough, but like one frame? Like, okay, so to encode NDI and decode, it's 2 frames, right? So 1 frame each. But like, that's 1/30th of a second. If you can differentiate that, bravo. But some people really like to fixate on the numbers, and some people get paid to do that. You know, they're supposed to fixate on the numbers and the speed and the latency and whatever. I get that. But most people, like, the latency is introduced elsewhere, and you know, the projector is going to introduce latency, or the network might introduce latency, or whatever. So can you please ask your audience on their experience if that's right? What is happening here? An educated guess? So, well, if you're not seeing much of a delay, you know, source, I don't see any delay. Yeah, I mean, what's happening here, though, is it's a single frame. And again, unless you're scanning the frames and watching the timestamps, you're probably not going to really notice a difference, because that's the point. That's the point of full NDI, is it's supposed to be as close to SDI as it possibly can be. And BirdDog's got it to 1 to 2 frames. And so that's really remarkable. I mean, and let me say this. There's nobody else that does it at that speed. I mean, yet. I'm sure competition will come. But just with the level of excellence and precision that BirdDog has, it's really hard to compete against that. Now, people are going to try all sorts of things to draw attention away from that. But me personally, I'm extremely surprised that a company like PTZ Optics or NewTek or whoever haven't put more resources behind developing the chip to do full NDI. Because there's a huge market there that really wants it to be as fast as possible. And everybody's just not investing the resources to do it and just flying past it and putting in, oh, we run HX3, you know, that's better than HX2. It's like, yeah, but it's still not as good as NDI, as full NDI. And it seems weird to me that you're doing everything you can to avoid it. And honestly, guys, come on, HX3 is literally just turn up the bandwidth to turn down the latency. That's all it is. So it's a great feature. If your camera has HX3, it's a variable bit rate, but it's still not an onboard processor that does the thing. So it's always surprises to me that more people aren't invested in that. But BirdDog will happily run out in front for as long as they possibly will let us. And we'll try and do as much cool stuff with it as we can. And like I said, you're going to find other companies that are going to come up with other party tricks and to enable other features. But the fact of the matter is that it's still HX and it's still highly processed, and it's always going to have that extra delay. So anyway, that's not the only thing that makes BirdDog great. I think my guys out in the office make this company great. But, you know, we do things a little bit differently around here. That's for sure. But yeah, take it away, audience, if you have any questions about that. So having installed gear in a lot of master control suites, I'm very sensitive to one frame jumps in latency. Fair enough, Michael. And I know lots of installers that say that same thing. Yeah, I know lots of people. So Alex says, hey, I'm off. Nice to meet you. Always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by, Alex. Come back anytime, man. I know lots of installers that say this exact thing, Michael, and it's like, fair enough. I mean, there are instances where you have to cut out as all the latency that you possibly can. And like all things, there's a place and a time for everything. And so, you know, there you go. Maybe NDI is not perfect for the specific install that you're working on, but that is the trade-off. PTZ Optics resell OEM gear. They have zero in-house dev. Oh, well, then maybe I'm not so surprised. Interesting. I did. Anybody else catch Tom Sinclair's show yesterday? He was reviewing the new PTZ Optics 4K Move camera, and it has built-in auto tracking, which is cool. But that's one of those things. I'm like, it's still HX3, you know. So that's a good price point, though. I mean, if I don't know what size the sensor is, but it's a 4K camera. Just curious to know a little bit more about it. So, sorry if I missed it. Did you mention the internal P200 SDI processing time? Lens board to SDI out? Nope, I did not mention that, and that is a number that I'm not permitted to share. I did not mention that information. At least hardware development. Yeah, understood. I've noticed that there's a difference if you use converters of different brands. In the end, you depend on the quality of the components. I would agree with that. That's for sure. If there is a movement and you make a hard cut, it's hard not to see it. If there is movement and you make a hard cut, it's hard not to see it. Hard not to see what? The cut? You're probably going to see the transition. Maybe I'm misreading that. Sorry. Would the problem be more that would the problem be more in that there are no hardware-based switchers that don't add latency that you can do IMAG with? I love vMix and TriCaster before that, but I still have to use Blackmagic switchers if I push to a Jumbotron. Does BirdDog have a latency-free NDI switcher? We do not have an NDI switcher in the way that you're referring. We've always been the endpoint conversion, so camera encode or obviously decode units that are running in decode. So that's how we do that. But yes, you're right. The units come into, ideally, TriCaster is obviously the chief, and they read NDI natively from start to finish. So the BirdDog signals would go into a TriCaster, it would decode it in full NDI at that expected, and then it outputs full NDI. You would send those sources, then whatever it is that you're doing, to the iMag. So yeah, you're up to 4 frames if that's the case, right? Because you're doing 1 at the encode BirdDog, 1 at the decode TriCaster, 1 at the encode TriCaster, and then 1 at the decode at the iMag screen. So yeah, you're up to 4 frames at that point, which is probably more what Michael is referring to. Getting NDI into that situation and then sending it up to the screen, you'll probably see 4 frames. You probably start being able to differentiate between 4 frames and not. Now, if you're sending, it's coming into vMix and it's outputting and you're going, you're uploading it as a stream, it's not quite as critical. But add the frame synchronization in any switcher. You can say more about that if you'd like. That's quite the simple sentence, but it's one of those like deep to unpack sentences, but All right, well, I got to keep getting through this coffee. I promised you I'd drink it before I was done with the show. We're almost there. I can see the bottom of the mug. My wife brought me home jalapeno Cheetos. I haven't tried them yet, and I'm tempted to bring them in next week and give them a go. I also semi-promised you that I might have a guest on the show today, and that has fallen through just because of some logistical things that need to happen. We are going to try and arrange to have that young man back on the show. He's been on before, but I don't want to promise anything. Just want to make sure that his schedule gets cleared up before we do that. And also shout out to Jeremy Glusterman, who I need to have on the show to chat about Resi, because that's a service that many of us may not know much about, and I don't know a lot about it, and I need to know more. So we're going to see if he can join us one day and just give us kind of the run through as to what that is. I love jalapeno Cheetos. Excellent. All right. One vote for jalapeno Cheetos is already in the chat. Definitely be interested to see some NDI supported switchers that can get that down to 2 frames. Is that not possible? I don't know if it's possible or not, because there's a lot of factors going on there, but I don't know how you could get it, because the switcher would need to run at a half frame, processing time, to get that done, because you would be running, oh no, that would be 3 frames, right? Yeah, I don't know if you could get it down to 2. That would be a challenge, that's for sure. If you're just switching sources, then you can use Zen NDI router. Yeah, I used Zen NDI router for a little while here to just switch sources, and that was fine. But then I swapped it out for Wirecast and then vMix, and the rest is history, as you all know. Does it improve the HX3 delay a lot? Is that not calculated with respect to full NDI or HX2? You've calculated how many more each has, plus or minus? Does it improve the NDI HX3? Yeah, so HX3 is more bandwidth, less latency, right? So HX2, I forget what the latency clock was on that, but up until recently, BirdDog wasn't doing HX2. So you can turn up the speed, and that turns down the latency on HX3, and it's a variable. You can pick and choose how quick you want that thing to encode, which is kind of cool. It's a cool little trick. But to each his own. And some of our stuff is doing HX3 now too, right? With Silicon 2. So you can play around with that if you want. The 1 frame delay. If there's movement and you make a hard cut, it's hard not to see the 1 frame delay. Are you cutting between different types of cameras, or are they all the same? Because if you're using like straight up SDI into TriCaster, and then you're using NDI in other places, yeah. Then that, especially of different brands, which a lot of guys are, especially of different brands, then you're probably gonna notice that 1 frame a little off, like it'll just look a little bit off. I don't know if it's an assumption or not made by BirdDog, but or maybe by NDI manufacturers in general, but I guess they kind of assume that if you're going to buy a fleet of cameras, they'd all be the same. I do know that lots of guys add to their fleet, right? Like, so we have 3 or 4 handy cams that are running on minis, and now we're going to buy BirdDog P200s. Yeah, you're going to have a little bit of dancing to do. I've noticed that I've got the church I work with on the weekends, got this camcorder that's on a mini, and we strictly use it for a wide shot now, because if you use it for anything else, you can definitely tell that the camera is slow compared to the P200s. We've got a couple of P200s set up, and then we've got this old school camcorder that's running. Fun little experiment that I'm doing in my, all my free time. So that same congregation was getting rid of a bunch of equipment, and one day they found these 2 really huge Panasonic, like over-the-shoulder broadcast cameras, right? So they have SDI out, and they have, they're humongous. Well, anyways, they have this old-school Panasonic DC in, the XLR connection with the 4 pins. So I've been trying to find a proper power supply for it, and there's 2 of them. I picked these up because they were like, we're just going to recycle these. And I was like, wait. I was like, we're streaming. Like, we could, if these work, let's set these up and use them. And so we could always use cameras. So they were like, well, if you can get them to work. So then I've been looking around trying to figure out, okay, what power supply do I need to get? And I think I found one on B&H's website. So it's the correct voltage, it's the correct wattage, and I've got the cables to do. Like, I bought one just to try it out to see how it works. So I think that's arriving today. B&H is pretty quick with their shipping. I think that's arriving today, and it'll be really cool if that camera turns on. Yeah, you better believe that I will be trying to get SDI out of that thing and see if I can't fire it up. So I'm pretty excited about that. Let me just look and see where that delivery is, because I think it's out for delivery today. I just bought it on Tuesday, sorry. Your package has been delivered. So it's out in the office, evidently. Pretty cool. So I'll tell you how that goes next week, if I manage to sort that out or not. But good stuff. Good stuff. Jalapeno Cheetos are indeed pretty great. Fantastic. I'm super excited now. You guys got me all pumped up about that. So snacks on stream on Tuesday might be jalapeno Cheetos. I'll try to remember to bring them in. The speeds of any signals need to be aligned in the switcher to a clock internal or external. That frame alignment add latency. Any switcher has a frame synchronization. I see. I'm at 610. Looks like that works fine. Boom. There you go, Jeff. I think Jeff may have had a piece out, but he might still be here. I don't know. Between the P200 and 240, there is not delay that I can see using with my TriCaster 410. Wow. Old school. I hope that those Panasonics aren't interlaced. I hope that those Panasonics aren't interlaced, that we ran into that. Oh, well, they might be. Yeah, they might be interlaced. We'll find out. Late to the stream, interesting dual mic phasing thing going on. Flaming Hot Cheetos also rock. Dual mic phasing thing? Are you guys hearing a dual mic phasing thing? That's the first I heard of that. I've only got one microphone. There's no other microphone going on. I'm sure Michael Graves would tell me if that is weird. And who is this Facebook user to which you speak of? Let me find out. Hey, what's going on, Anthony? How are you? Laura says, nope, sounds good here. Hi, Laura. How are you? So there you go. Silas says, nope. Anthony, I don't know, man. Sounds like a personal problem. How's it going, man? Good to see you again. Hopefully we can get you back on the show soon. What have you been up to? Anthony's a buddy of BirdDog. Sounds clean to me, says Paul. It could be my player. I got a lot going on with this Mac 1. Will Bird God? Well, that's a new one. Let's not go there. Will Bird Dog be at ISE in Barcelona next week? Yes, they will. And the guy that you want to look for is Phil, Mr. Phil Lane. That dude is Captain Europe, and he has been working his tail off over there. He's the head of the sales team in Europe. And so I'm just going to clean up my desk here briefly. And super great dude, really knows his stuff, knows his cameras. And when Phil says something, a fact, it's usually backed up by a fair bit of evidence. And so he's a great guy to talk straight with, shoot your ideas to, and yeah, he'd be able to walk you through whatever it is that you got going on. But the Bird Dog team will be at ISE in Barcelona, and Phil will be leading the charge. Also, look for a guy named Robbie. I think Robbie's going to be there as well. And he's a real cool dude. He spent some time here with us in this office, just kind of getting to know us a little bit, but getting to know the product line too. So Robbie's a great guy to know. I don't know who else is going. But I think Robbie and Phil will be there. I know Phil will be there for sure. Standing outside waiting for my delivery of a play to do a review for streaming media. Oh, there you go. Right on. Hey, be sure you put 1.4 firmware on it before you do the review, because there's a lot of good rock solid stuff in 1.4 that you want to put on there. So, hey, what cameras are you using to stream? I see one of them. Which one do you see? Oh, you see the PF120 in the two. Okay, so there's a P200 that you're looking at right now. There is that one that you just saw was a P240. That's up in what I call the crow's nest. And then the PF120 is the next shot that you're going to see in this playlist. And so I've got 3 cameras that kind of cycle through, give you a little diversity. Those are the 3 cameras I got here. And then I have a P100 that's directly overhead that does my desk shot, snacks on stream, all that stuff. And then a screen capture for showing web UIs and what have you. All right, folks. Almost done the coffee. That Ember mug kept my coffee warm the whole 2 hours we've been online here. We're just so stinking close to 2 full hours, because I started this with 15 minutes, a 15-minute pre-show. So, yeah, we're almost... Okay, there we go. So this is the PF120. This guy right here. And that's my color wall. So that's the camera that's in the 240 shot after this next one. Not... All right, not... All right. What a disaster. Chrome totally packed up. This is a Chrome issue. That's an interesting problem. All right, let me back up and explain what the heck was going on here. So Chrome quit twice, and it dumped the tab that I was using for StreamYard. So when I reconnected with it, it brought everything back, and the audio didn't come across. And so I restarted the NDI webcam option because I listened to the NDI feed out of vMix, and that was working just fine. And this computer was receiving that just fine. So then I restarted that. Well, then I just quit Chrome and restarted it, and boom, now we're back. So this mug, what mug? Well, this is the Ember mug, which is not a sponsor for this show, unfortunately. If anybody from Ember is watching, we'd love to sponsor. We'd love for you to be a sponsor of the show. I use this every day on this thing pretty much at this point. But Ember mugs, not our sponsor. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. Good times. Hey, thanks a bunch. I have to go. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by, Berlin. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for trying to help me with the audio stuff. I tried to lip read the mug info. Sorry about that, Paul. vMix free time is over. The audio returns. You are all, thanks for hanging on, everybody. The 10 of you that are still hanging around. I appreciate the effort. And I guess that means Chrome is tired of me doing this, and so I should probably pack up. The coffee is gone. So, as promised, I have finished the drink. So hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully you're having a great end of the week. Hopefully you have less snow than we do. But I know my kids are enjoying it. I've been getting text messages from my wife showing them playing out in the snow today. So great fun. Hopefully you're doing well. If at all you need our assistance between now and Tuesday, be sure you hit up help at birddog.tv. The guys over at Help, this will generate a ticket for you. If you submit it correctly, you're going to get an auto response. It will tell you what the ticket number is. It'll tell you any sort of required information that we might need to really help you with it. So if you need help between now and Tuesday, hit us up at help@birddog.tv, and we'd be happy to give you a hand. And I got a team of people that are waiting for your message. So shoot us a message there. We promise you that we will get back to you. Especially we'll get back to you as soon as we have an answer. But of course, join us twice a week, Tuesday, Thursdays from 11 to at least 12 o'clock. And in this instance, it's 1. So there you go. We've gone for officially 2 hours minus the little audio glitch there that we had. Hit us up a couple of times a week. Set your watches, synchronize your watches to Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 o'clock Eastern time here in the U.S. And we're trying to do this all the time as consistent as possible and give you guys a chance to chat with each other and chat with me and answer any of your Bird Dog inquiries and just get to hang out together. It's always fun to spend some time together. So really appreciate that. Appreciate you guys taking some time out today and listening in while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. We're supposed to get a little more snow this weekend, so wish us luck. Who knows what that'll look like, but we'll probably be back on Tuesday, no problem. And I don't think there's any sort of forecast that next Tuesday there would be an issue. So unless I come down with something, plan on a show on Tuesday. Looking forward to that. Paul, thanks for coming by. Great job today. Looking forward to the next. Oh, thank you very much. Let us know what it is that you enjoyed. I'll try and do more of that. Like I said, I am going to try and have a couple of guests on to help walk us through stuff, make some additional content so that you know more and I know more and all that. We learn together. So good stuff. Hey, thanks for your team, for your time. Have a nice day, Marcus. Marcus, it's always a pleasure, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. Like I said, come on back as soon as you can. Silas, my pleasure, man. Take it easy, and we will chat again soon. Take care of yourselves out there. Be careful. The world is a crazy place right now, so watch out. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we will see you on the next rendition of Bird Dog Live Support on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye.
You didn't say the magic word.